right, we're going on the way here. Thank you. The purpose of this public hearing will be to receive public input on the following related requests associated with the proposed indoor-outdoor sports complex. 1, request by Claire Roth, agent on behalf of Eric Weishart, owner, for a conditional use permit to allow development of phase 1 of the Breck Athletic Complex on property located in the southeast corner of State Highway 164 and Town Line Road. Tax key number BBB 2022-999-002. This proposed development phase includes 4 outdoor soccer fields, parking areas, internal roadway access, lighting, and related site improvements to be operated on a seasonal basis for practices, games, and tournament events. I'm going to start out with a call to order and roll call. Commissioner Kennedy? Here. Commissioner Dombruski? Here. Trustee Sonnenberg? Here. Trustee Brenner? Here. Commissioner Peterson? We have Attorney Schober and Bayer. Planner Greenberg and
Roll call for the board. Trustee Dash. Trustee Corey. And Trustee Brennan. And Trustee
thank you. Before we get into the public hearing part of this, I'm going to turn this over to our planner, Ben, and he's going to address the 14 points that were raised at the last public hearing. Ben.
Thank you, Warren. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect.
Could be better.
I'm soft-spoken, I'm not a yeller, so I just want to make sure you can hear me. I'm going to speak real briefly on what tonight is all about. I'll then hand it over to Attorney Bayer to get into some of the procedural stuff with state conditional use law. But I thought it would be helpful to first give a quick update to everybody about kind of what's occurred since the village received the initial REC applications in late December. And so as many of you are aware and were present on the 29th, the village held 3 public hearings concurrently. Those were to address a request for a land use plan amendment on 40 acres of the Breck parcel, a base zoning request from residential to commercial on the 40 acres, and a planning and development district request. I'm just gonna stand up real quick here, and I'm only gonna use this once, but if everyone can see, the 40 acres is that area. If you're familiar with the site, there's high tension power lines that run through the property. You may hear that reference made east of the lines, west of the lines. I just wanted to point that out so everyone had an orientation to it, that the rezone request for the base rezone and the land use plan amendment, 2 of the 3 requests that were addressed at the public hearing were to address that land with the striping in the yellow. So at that public hearing, there was substantial public input, over 3 hours, over 60 speakers spoke. In addition, there were volumes of written comments that were received by the village prior to the public hearing. Those concerns, to summarize, included several things, including but not limited to traffic congestion and roadway safety, impacts to infrastructure and public services, drainage, stormwater concerns, noise concerns, issues about lighting pollution, light spill, and impacts to property values. Subsequent to that public hearing, the Plan Commission met at its regular January 29th meeting and decided that they needed additional information in order to make their findings and make any determination on these requests. And so they asked for, and the chairman had pointed to these 14 pieces of information. I'm going to save a few minutes and condense them into about 7, but really these were areas where the commission needed more information, and these really were consistent with the public comments that were raised at the hearing. To summarize, these things included, and again, these were areas where the village was directing to get more information from staff through additional research. Traffic impacts, lighting impacts, sound and noise impacts, stormwater and drainage impacts, an environmental review to look at impacts to on-site wetlands. There is some cemetery history out there, impacts to public safety and crime, and a review of comparable facilities, different similar sports facilities in other communities. So since that time, we have received some additional information. We've learned that the Department of Transportation is going to require a traffic impact analysis. That's going to, that scope, the village engineer was working with WISDOT. That scope will include several local road connections. So they are going to have to analyze the traffic impacts, and they have to make substantial improvements to the road infrastructure, signaling, that type of thing. So that is undergoing, and that is still pending completion, but that is being required by WISDOT with respect to the traffic impact concerns. The village police department did a great job for getting a bunch of additional information from analogous communities with similar sports complex uses. They have provided that for the record. I believe all that information is available to the public online. The developers indicated they have delineated the wetlands. We'll talk about a little bit about that tonight in tonight's request, but they have delineated the wetlands, and the DNR, before they can disturb land, the DNR requires that they do several site screenings. One includes the natural resources, which flag wetlands, endangered species. The other is the cultural resources. There is a history of a cemetery site there. It was a pauper cemetery. The Archaeological Society has records that date back a certain period of time, but the first 22 years it was a cemetery. They did not have records of burial plot sites. So there is some additional due diligence that there may be older burial sites still there. But again, there's a process that the developer will need to go through. There will be a monitor from the Archaeological Society on site when they're disturbing ground. If they hit a burial site, they will need to address that per state law. So that is being reviewed. Staff had a meeting with Westfield, Indiana. That is a suburb of Indianapolis, just to the north. It's the home of the Grand Park Sports Complex. A bit bigger than BRAC, I think 400, 500 acre sports complex. But we met with their principal planner, somebody on their economic development team, and their engineer, and received a bunch of information about their experience, things that worked, some things that they might do better, so on and so forth. And staff did some research looking for studies. There was a concern that there would be a property value impact. We did some research looking for studies that demonstrated there were adverse impacts from these types of uses on property values, and any information we found was provided for the record. So again, I wanted to bring this up. I thought it was important to catch everybody up on all that has occurred, but I also think it's important to note that we're not holding a hearing for those requests, so that hearing was held on the 29th. So to pivot to tonight, what tonight's request is all about is a conditional use request for phase 1 of the project.
Travel here a bit. Actually, I'll just be real quick here. Again, phase 1. This again was the master plan, but phase 1 is generally going to be limited to this amenity: 4 soccer fields, parking, and there will be some temporary containers used for storage. So I just want to point out that even though those 3 requests at the last meeting were about the broader project, tonight's public hearing
is about this phase. And that's important, and I'm going to hand it over because the testimony that you guys provide, the commission's only supposed to be listening to stuff about the request, which is the conditional use phase 1. And so any testimony about anything else really isn't relevant and may not be considered substantial evidence. How's that for a pitch?
Excellent. All right. So good evening, everyone, and it's great to see so many people come out and be interested in municipal matters. Ben asked me to give a little overview of, what are the rules to the game, so to speak? How is the body evaluate whether to grant or deny a request for a conditional use permit? Exactly what is that? So he asked me to sort of explain sort of the two-tier regulation of that and what the rules of the game are, so to speak. And back in 2018, at the state level, the legislature changed some of the law and they passed a new statute that regulated the granting of conditional use permits at the local level. And what it says is, to quote directly out of statute, it says if an applicant for a conditional use permit meets or agrees to meet the requirements and conditions specified in the local ordinance or those imposed by the planning commission, then the city or the municipality or the village in this case has to grant a conditional use permit. Well, that begs the question then, what are the requirements and conditions that the state legislature is referring to? What are they telling us that we have to pay attention to at the local level? So if you have your laptop, your smartphone, or whatever you want to look up, and get to the specific elements that the body will be evaluating tonight, in the municipal code, it's 16.25. And I'll quickly run through them. The factors that this body will consider and evaluate when determining whether to grant a conditional use include the maintenance and safe, healthful conditions that are being proposed, the existing topography, the drainage and vegetative cover, the compatibility of the use with other adjacent properties, the existing and proposed vehicular and pedestrian traffic, the adequacy of parking, the adequacy of public utilities and public services to provide, power and light and water and all that other stuff, the compatibility of the use with the comprehensive plan, the suitability of the subject site for the density that's being proposed, and the creation of noise, traffic orders, and other conditions that could be detrimental. So if you're want to know what the kind of the ground rules are, it's 16.25. Those are A through I there. Those are the ones that you want to look at when you're sharing what your position is and what you feel about it. Those are the things that are helpful to focus on. So back to the state statute and how that relates to the local regulation. So the statute says that if an applicant for the conditional use permit demonstrates through what they call substantial evidence that they're able to address the concerns that we just talked about, those enumerated in the village code, then the planning commission again becomes legally obligated to recommend granting a conditional use permit. That begs the question, I'm sure you're all sitting there wondering, well, what the heck is substantial evidence, right? Well, they give us a definition. They say it means facts and information other than merely personal preference or speculation, directly pertaining to the requirements and conditions an applicant must meet to obtain the conditional use permit, and that reasonable persons would accept in support of the conclusion. So that's what we, not just speculation or personal preference, but substantial evidence. Now, interestingly, the statute also requires that a plan commission's decision to recommend denying the request for conditional use has to also be based. 30,000 foot view. When we talk about a request for enumerated as a regular use in that particular district. So let's also talk very briefly about the district here. The district that this is in, the one that we're talking about tonight, phase 1, which only involves 4 properties. 4 fields on the northwest corner of the property, is B3 or general business district.
I'm gonna get thrown out of here.
Yep.
Why did you ask me what This is my town, not your town. I'm leaving. Good.
again, you know, a lot of people are passionate about this. And to that gentleman's point, that's what we're here to do. What we're gonna have is a public hearing. And we're gonna take public comment, people can weigh in, and I hope that you stay, and I hope we hear from you. So, there's, the B3 district, just so everybody understands what it's the general business district. There are a list of, enumerated or favored conditional uses, in 16.40. So that's, if you wanna look, you can write that down, 16.40. And those in the general business district includes, favorite conditional uses include indoor and/or outdoor recreational facilities. So those are the factors that this body must weigh as it listens to the evidence. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and their participation in the political process. And I hope that helps you understand the constraints and the rules that apply to these folks as they're trying to do their best to serve you as public servants and as they try to make their decisions. Thank you.
Good. Okay, at this point, we will open the floor up to public comments. Please try and keep your public comments to about 2 minutes, and you can turn the mic on.
All right, I just wanted to know, we understand that the minutes may feel like limited amount of time to speak. However, this allows us to ensure that everyone who wishes to comment has an opportunity to be heard. Please direct all your comments to the village board or the commission. This is a time for respectful input, not for provoking reactions from others in attendance. We ask that everyone conduct themselves in a professional and courteous manner. There will be a zero tolerance policy for heckling and disruptive behavior. Additionally, we ask that you hold applause and cheering so that we can make the best use of our allotted 2-hour public comment period and give as many individuals as possible the chance to speak. Thank you for your cooperation and respect. All right, the first one up for comments is Jim and Gina Sicka.
Do we have to do the address thing again?
Yes.
You may have to get a little closer to the mic.
My name is Jim Sticka. I live at W246 S6370 Clearview Lane, Vernon. My concern is that I feel that this is being pushed through, and the 4 soccer fields is the key to get into the door. And once you open that door and allow them to build this facility, build the facility, they get in the door, and then you guys feel obligated to give them something else, give them something else, give them something else. So I think that we need to stop and look at what the effect that this is going to have on all the residents around, because none of this really affects the vast majority of Big Bend that doesn't live near where this facility is going to be, that will have to deal with the lights and the noise and everything else that will come along with it. And you're only talking about 4 soccer fields right now, which seems innocuous, but the bigger picture is coming, and I think that's what we're all worried about.
The other part is that it seems like this is being pushed through, and you just commented about all the studies that need to be done. So is everything going to take place before any ground is broken to get these 4 soccer fields in? Because it has been said by the business that they want to push this through and fast track this thing. So will all these studies be completed where we have the traffic and everything else to know what we are in store of and hopefully not have it? Because that would be my, thank you very much.
All right, next up is Richard Butler.
Thank you all. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Thank you all for this opportunity to speak after the last meeting.
A little bit closer. There you go.
Moses.
Okay, let's go.
After the last meeting, there was predominantly a one-sided persuasion circulating online and in the village of Big Bend. I didn't obtain much information, that's why I came to the meeting. And I sought out credible information and sought out that information from personnel close to the Breck complex discussions. It was on 2 points. It was found that Breck has indicated that they will absorb or in conjunction with other investors the cost for the water and sewer infrastructure. According to the information received, Breck has also recorded a video stating this, which would also be considered public record. It was also revealed that the water and sewer infrastructure being planned is intended for the proposed business district. The aspect of forcing or compelling the village of Big Bend residents to connect to this infrastructure was not and is not the focus of the discussions in this planning. My position at this point is that I am encouraging the village board and planning commission to continue with transparency and with all due diligence when planning the feasibility of this Breck proposal. I also recommend that the claims and concerns being raised here this evening continue to be evaluated with the same due diligence. Impact reports are already posted on the village website, which address some of the concerns. Let's recognize that this opportunity doesn't come along very often for the village of Big Bend. This land has been mostly vacant since we moved out here 21, 22 years ago. Thank you.
Next up, Jason Deere.
Everybody hear me? All right, my name is Jason Deering, and I live at W237S6735 Fernwood Drive, 300 feet from this complex's property. With regard to tonight's parking, will Big Bend restrict overflow parking for large weekend tournaments for the greater good of the adjacent residential roadways as well surrounding this property? If allowed, this complex can run every day, April to October, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. with plans of 70-foot tall light poles, with each field having up to 12 light poles. Kiss those dark night skies goodbye. Who has ever been denied permits? Anyone given a free pass for meeting permits? Now, tonight they spoke on conditional use permits. Leaders of Big Bend will ultimately give this developer a pass to overlook the village's own ordinances and permit requirements with regard to many things, including but not limited to these light poles, which cannot exceed a height of 45 feet per the existing zoning, being B4. What else is the government of Big Bend willing to overlook and or pass? Tonight there may be a rezoning of the 40 acres of this property from residential to commercial for more fields in one large indoor complex. Now, the developer takes pride in the setback for the Phase 1 soccer fields and light poles to a distance of at least 200 feet from the residential property lines along Town Line Road to the north. With this graciousness, the rezoning should not occur and the 40 acres left zone residential, because under the complete and full rezoned 150-acre complex, the families to the east along Big Bend Road abutting this 40-acre zone would only have a 35-foot buffer from any one given sports field or light pole. This 35-foot buffer is unacceptable. I ask everyone, especially those of Big Bend, is this the village of Big Bend or the village of Breck? You have a voice, use it. You already experienced a previous village board you did not like and did not listen to you. Do you want that again? Demand transparency. Thank you.
Next up is Gary and Shirley Davis.
Okay, my name is Shirley Gabris. I live at W237S8115 Sunset View Court. My opinion at this is that this variance should not go through because it will not benefit Big Bend in any way. We do not have any infrastructure or anything. We have no hotels, we have nothing. All the communities around us will benefit from it. And that includes if you put only put soccer fields right now. We can't, it'll bankrupt Big Bend. The taxes will go so high that we won't even be able to sell our properties at a reduced price, because everybody's gonna look at it and say, oh, hell no, I'm not paying that. But this does not benefit Big Bend at all. It benefits Beck. That's it. No other point to it.
Our taxes just doubled here in the last couple of years, and that's way beyond what we can afford the way it is in this town. Now, you want to go and build sewers, waters, roads at our cost. $7 grand in taxes right now, you're gonna double it to 14. I can tell you right now, it's time to move. The answer is no, don't want it.
Next up is Jerry Campbell.
I live at South 69 West. I'm kind of short, sorry.
You can angle it down, the microphone down, hold the microphone down. There you go.
Can you hear me? I live at South 69 West 23360 Millbrook Circle South. Approximately 2 blocks from where this development is supposed to be. My concern is that the village of Big Bend is putting this on the village of Vernon residents. And you're putting your concerns about this and not really understanding that this is the village of Vernon that's going to be affected. Not, you're going to pay for it, and you're going to pay for it bad. I just saw a report about somebody who had to hook up the sewer and water costing $70,000, 10 years assessment on their tax bill. And that's what people would be looking at if they decided to have a water tower and the water tower affected our wells, that then we would have to hook up. So there's a lot of concerns besides the lights pollution, the noise pollution, and everything else. I think you should think twice about trying to be good neighbors. And I have a question, are all of you on the village board? Commission and board, okay. Because I'm thinking, boy, you're only 1,400 people, you got a lot of people on this. And that's the other side of it. Vernon has 7,000 people, you have 14, so you're gonna tell 7,000 people that we have to put up with it while you're thinking you're gonna make money. You got duped once before by some greedy man. Don't get duped again.
Next up is Walter Owens. Next up is Walter Owens.
My name is Walter Owens. I live at W242S6272 Elder Air Drive, Waukesha, Wisconsin. I've been a truck driver for 45 years. I've seen nightmares every day. And this complex here will bring you one nightmare that you won't ever get your head out of your rear end. And that's the honest to goodness truth. You're looking at, if you look at, we were parking around this church, okay? Your community turns around and blocks off one side of the road because you say you don't have enough rough area to park the cars and that and get other cars down the road. What do you think we got over there around that whole complex? The roads are not wide enough for anything. The culverts, everything are crushed, all going towards the property of the owners. Nothing to do with the Breck Stadium at all. And who's gonna fit all of these bills? Who's gonna pay all of this stuff? I know, I'll tell you one thing. When you go to retirement, you might as well kiss that goodbye. Because you know what? You ain't gonna have enough money to live in that outhouse that you got out back hidden. Because the government needs to know everything that you eat, breathe, and drink. And you know what? You got some of the best water in the world right here. And you want to turn around and you want to sacrifice that for some lame excuse of the complex? I'm sorry, but this is just a nightmare. I'm a hunter. I pay for all my own sports. I don't have to have somebody else donate their money and turn around and lose their livelihoods because of this complex. Take this complex farther down the freeway. You got better infrastructure down towards Beloit and that. You got ground that's all open land. You can build any place you want and build all the structure around it. You don't have to destroy homes and people's lives. That's just not, we want to see northern lights. We don't want to see baseball lights. Because I'll tell you one thing.
This work? Can you hear me? My name is Bob Stigler. I own 40 or 50 acres actually directly north of the 40 acres we're all talking about tonight. And one of the things they brought up is affecting the neighboring properties. And I feel as though this is going to affect our property. Years ago, the village of Waukesha, town of Waukesha at that time, had their land use plan just like you do. And we left ours at residential because this property that we're discussing tonight was residential. We wanted to be compatible with that. So it stayed residential. I don't believe that this is a very good idea to change it on our end. We talked about the property value. I've talked to people about our property values. That's my retirement, is that 50 acres, or my kids someday. I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm still farming. I just don't, I've talked to somebody about this property value because we've heard numbers. And I said, are these things really real? Is it 20 to 25% going to drop our property in value? And they said, absolutely. And that's if you can even find somebody that's even interested in buying it at that point. Nobody's going to want to buy that property and build houses across the road from something like this. So I don't even know if our property will be sellable someday if we go ahead with this. The other thing too is the town line road is our out for our farm equipment, our trucks and things like that. Everybody talks about the road being there, which it is. We take our farm equipment down and we have to get over to the side, let cars, when we meet them. And everybody said, well, they're gonna put no parking signs along there. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed a lot of people ignore signs. So we're gonna have cars parked there, we're gonna come down the road with a combine, and there won't be enough room to get by. Call the police, they come out, they write a ticket, but they get a ticket, but the car doesn't get to move. We still can't get our machines past it. So I really don't know what you're gonna do about that and how you're gonna handle that situation, but the law says that from our farm, we have to find the shortest route to a main highway, so we're not overweight. And right now, that's town line road from our farm to 164. So, all right, thank you.
Next up is Peter Dunster.
Hello, my name is Curtis Washachek. I live at South 90 West 22775 in the village of Big Bend. I am here to address the people, not the board, because they are predetermined to shove this down our throats. If you go through with this, we on our property have already invested $90,000 in septic systems in the last 10 years. Has anybody thought of how much damage and how much construction will have to be done to provide for somebody else that is public, not even a public place? The people here should be the ones who make the decisions, because the people here in front of me are trying to ram this down our throat, and it's not right. I don't know what it's going to take to get it through your minds, but you should see the people behind me. They are not your friends right now, and they don't want to have anything to do with this, just like me. I have a lot of frontage, and if this comes through my yard, and I'm paying upwards of $300,000 for sewer, which we have one failed sewer here in Big Bend, and we were also turned down for a sewage treatment plant. Why are we trying to shove this down people's throat and not listen? You got the Big Bend police and your determinations on how long a person can speak and what they can talk about. These are your rules, not ours. We want to express ourselves to every one of you and let you know we're not happy with this. Do you even understand what I'm saying? Because half you aren't even looking at me. Listen to the people. Last time I was taught in school, this is a democracy. This isn't run by little dictators.
Commercial should not allow the CUP and is just not a fit for our rural area. I respectfully urge the board not to approve the development. Big Bend residents and those of every neighboring municipality rely on the board to be good stewards of the surrounding community at large, enforcing standards of excellence and ensure development enhances the community rather than diminishing the livability of existing neighborhoods. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Daniel Bull. I live at 225 S9060 Mount Carmel Road in the village of Big Bend. My wife and I moved here a little less than a year ago. We moved here for a small town and rural living. I'm concerned about the building of this complex as to the tax benefits. When I do some research on this and hear from what people have to say, I really don't see any tax benefits, and I'm concerned about that because our property taxes are already high. In my opinion, I do not think that the village of Big Bend has the infrastructure to support all of the traffic as well as the public safety that's going to go with this. Police, fire, EMS. And I'm also concerned about our neighbors in the village of Vernon and the town of Waukesha. I don't think the village of Big Bend is equipped to handle all of the potential noise complaints that are gonna come from neighbors in that area. And I do not think that this sports complex, that's gonna start with the building of 4 fields, but it's gonna grow exponentially from there if this conditional use permit gets approved. I don't think it's gonna benefit our community as a whole. I think it's only gonna benefit the people that are going to pay to put their children into those types of sports. And people are gonna come from all over, not just Wisconsin, but neighboring states, and benefit from our facilities. There is a saying up here on the top left corner of the agenda that life is better in the Bend, but I do not think that that is an accurate statement if this sports complex goes ahead with being approved.
Next up is Helen Owens.
Helen Owens, W242S6272, Elder Aaron Drive, Village of Waukesha. My husband and I invested our life savings 39 years ago into our home in the Village of Waukesha. Fortunately, it has appreciated quite a bit, and it is a significant part of our retirement savings. So we were shocked and very scared that we could lose up to 25% of its value due to we're only like 1,500 feet from this complex. So we either sell next month or I work until I'm 70. So that is a decision I wasn't prepared to have to make. I understand that this land has to be developed into something, but you should not be rezoning residential land into commercial. That is quite a bait and switch for the people that live right next door to this. And this complex benefits so few for so much money. I doubt there's maybe a handful of people in this room that need to use it. It should be left residential, where it's zoned residential, and you should be putting something in, like a grocery store, farmer's market, something that the community can use. Thank you very much.
Next up is Gail Fritz.
Calvin Fritz, W229-8755 Mulberry Street. Members of the board, I would like to address something that extends beyond any single agenda item, but seems to have become glaringly obvious in regards to this specific item being discussed here tonight. And that is how this board represents the community in public spaces. In recent discussions surrounding this issue, there has been a clear shift towards personal exchanges and ongoing back and forth on social media. These platforms are an important part of modern civic engagement, and public officials should absolutely be present in them. But presence carries responsibility, and tone matters. When discourse among public officials becomes combative, reactive, or personal, it reflects on this board as a whole. It undermines public confidence, shifts attention away from the substance of the issues before us, and lowers the standard of dialogue that this community expects from its leadership. This is not about disagreement. Disagreement is both inevitable and necessary. It is about how that disagreement is handled. There is a clear difference between engaging the public in good faith and becoming drawn into unproductive personal exchanges, such as calling people names and using patronizing and mocking language. Controversy is no excuse for immaturity and poor behavior. The expectation for those in positions of public responsibility is not perfection, but professionalism and good judgment. That means knowing when to engage, how to engage, and when to step back. Our community deserves leadership that reflects on maturity, discipline, and a professional focus on issues that actually impact people's lives. That standard is not optional, it is part of the responsibility of serving in these roles. Once elected, you are no longer a free agent. Everything you say and how you conduct yourself reflects on your reputation, the board as a whole, and the community. It doesn't matter if you're governing a village of 1,500 people or an entire state. It's a matter of integrity and character, and what I am seeing is not bolstering my confidence in any of those in any way. Thank you.
Frank Peck, West 234, South 7050 Big Bend Road.
A little bit closer to the.
Real close, okay. Some really good talks here tonight. I can't come close to you, I'm very sensitive, I know a lot more than I do. But I do know that I don't want to see this community change like it is. I love the village, I love all the people around here, I love to see my neighbors walking down the road, kids riding bicycles. Not going to happen if all this goes through. This isn't. And I'm hoping that everyone here up on the board realize that we care about where we are and how we are. And like my sign at the end of the road says, Paradise Ridge Pastures. I think I live in paradise, and I keep it that way. Thank you.
Julie Bellman.
I'm Julie Bellman. I'm here on behalf of my parents, Gerald and Angie Batala. I've lived in this community for 50 years. Over 50 years, my parents on the address of South 87, West 23, 135, and 137. Edgewood Avenue, Big Bend, the village. I lived here and I look at everyone around us. We were all neighbors. We were all friends. And now it's putting a big damper between everyone. This rec center doesn't belong here. We are not equipped to have this here. This is our community. It belongs to all of us, not to them. We have to stop with all this promises and what's going on behind the scenes. Is this going on? Is this not? My mom and dad are not here to attend. They oppose the rec center. They do not want nothing to do with this. They are a member of this community. They just cannot be here today to speak for them. Again, deny everything. Deny the zoning. Deny everything. We do not want this rec center here. Thank you.
Alex Roberts.
Alex Roberts, W229S8170, Big Bend Drive. I'm standing here with a light at height above your seated position. These lights are engineered with lenses and technology to cast a light only near my face so that I can see what I'm doing. These lights are roughly 400 lumens. Proposed phase 1 lighting exceeds 180,000 lumens per pole on 36 light poles. The BREC permit narrative states that site lighting has been designed to minimize impacts. It goes on to note the addition of berms up to 10 feet in height. The statement on the permit narrative is factually inaccurate. Lighting design and berms may reduce lighting impacts. It cannot and will not minimize it. And by the way, berm heights of up to 10 feet could wind up being 2 inches. As part of the documents provided, staff at a number of comparable venues were contacted and indicated that their community has not experienced recurring complaints related to lighting. 0 residents around the comparable venues were contacted for their feedback. The photometric studies provided are indeed accurate to the data they contain, but they disingenuously illustrate the impact. Low foot candle levels shown on the studies are at the far end of properties, not on the property lines. The amount of light in foot candles reaching you and your property sitting in front of me is minimal. But when I'm at a position above you, these lights are as blinding as BREC. The photometrics are a problem, but the larger problem is that even with foot candles not hitting you at the ground where you're sitting, when I'm 70 feet in the air above you, running at over 180,000 lumens, I will still be blinding the ever-loving retinas out of your eyes, even driving on 164. BREC does not have to be all or nothing. Please, allow BREC to move forward and be built within the existing ordinances and zoning conditions that are in place to protect and respect the best interests of our community. And we encourage you to go to a place, even Frederick Hospital, nearby that just put up a lot of lights by need. They're not nearly as bright. Talk to their neighbors. Even with the photometric lens on these lights, I'm a master electrician, I put up more parking lot lights than I can count. There is still an impact, even if besides foot candles. And like I said, talk to those neighbors, please. And outside of this, and not evidentiary, I do appreciate the board. I know there have been a lot of, I'll say, accusations to your judgment. I appreciate you as public servants, and don't share the notion that you've already made the decision. So thank you for your service, public service.
Chuck Billies, W228S9560, Cruise Court. I'm also the Vernon Village President. We did send to you Resolution 2026-03, where the board does oppose this development. I'd also like to remind you about being a good neighbor. This development is not benefiting anybody. None of us are going to be able to use it. It's not a commercial business that'll benefit our community that we can run to for something, something beneficial. All it's going to do is lower property values around the property. Would you want this in your backyard if you live there? And also, the services required for this are non-existent. I'm curious to know if you're going to have a referendum about sewer and water for the village. It's a huge expense. And taxes are going to go up quite a bit. You're not going to see a decrease in property taxes. So I urge you to look at all the information, wait until you get all the studies back before making a decision. Because once you approve the CUP, their foot's in the door, and it's hard to stop the movement. So please, wait to get all the information before you make a decision. Thank you.
My name is Erica Say. I live at S88W22540 Willow Court in Big Bend. Tonight I want to thank you for your time, consideration, and continued service to the village and this matter. I reviewed all of the documents that the village posted on the website regarding the proposed project. I'm confident that the board has relied upon the objective findings and professional analysis contained within the studies presented to inform its decision-making process. I also trust that the board had appropriately disregarded any unsubstantiated or inaccurate information circulated in the recent weeks. Accordingly, I respectfully express my support and proposal for this project.
Next up, Eric Wagner.
First of all, thank you all for this opportunity to talk. My name is Derek Wagner. I live at W229, it's 8730 Mulberry Street. I want to say that I'm in support of this conditional use permit. I'm in support of the project. I think if the developer can deliver on what they're promising, it's an insanely great opportunity for the village. Sorry. I'm in support of this. If they can deliver what they promised and any kind of corporate welfare or tax incentives, it's a huge win for the village and the surrounding areas. In the course that's built into this meeting, things have been said on both sides of this fight that could have been hurtful, and we're all guilty of it, and myself included. I'm not innocent in any of that. I participated, and it's not right. I've been told that I'm being bribed. I've had my ethical integrity questioned. I've had my religious beliefs questioned, and I've had someone mock me because of my stillborn son and my lack of children. I'm an awesome uncle, so might be funny. But we need to move past all this and focus on the facts that have been presented and not the sensationalized rhetoric that may or may not have a basis in reality. It is this commission and board's duty to look at this objectively and to factually look at this while blocking out all the vitriol from both sides to make objective decisions on fact-based information. I personally hope this passes for the opportunity it offers, but in the event that it doesn't, I can vow that I will be an adult about it, and I will move on. It's not right to harp on this, it's not right to keep going about this. If it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I hope that everyone behind me can agree to that, and we can just learn to live with what what's gonna happen. I understand that not everyone's gonna like this, whether it happens or not, but I'm hoping that we can all continue to be adults about it. Thanks.
Next up is Coleman.
West 228, Salt 8750 Cherry Street. I lived here all my life. This complex would cause more problems than ever could cause. More cops, more fire departments, water and sewer, and like they say, the taxpayers are going to be paying us for the rest of their life. Where is our kids going to go? What are they getting out of this? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And your children are just the same. You're going to be paying, and they're going to be paying for the rest of their life. They won't be able to own a house in Big Bend because they couldn't afford the taxes. This is ridiculous. These people are not listening to us. You should put it on a referendum and let us vote on it.
Sandy Neal.
Sandy from West 230, South 38, 27, Millville Road, in the village of Waukesha here today. Thank you very much. I have to say how tolerant you've been to everybody this evening. I had read the agenda before coming and realized that the public hearing is only on the conditional use permit. And as been explained, that's going to be very difficult to deny. 25 dollars went up on West Hall Parkway. I was the nearest house, and I'm now the third nearest house. And this is like deja vu for me. I see what you people are going through. It has been 16 years straight of twice a month meetings that I go to the village hall. And the amount of effort that gets put into taking care of that tiny little 5 items, which is actually 10 items, so it's not me. But anyway, you guys have to make a decision in general, and that's what you're listening to, which I think is very polite because the public hearing is about what's on the agenda for the public hearing, you guys are taking all comments. People in your position can't always make a decision based on popular opinion. I mean, if that was the case, you would already know how to do everything that's going on. Sometimes you have to make a decision that's you think is in the best interest of the community, which is what we're charged with. You could be wrong, but you're going to do it in the best interest of the community, not someone else. So I wish you the best in your deliberations, but I think you're going down the wrong path in this is what you're proceeding with. Thank you for your time.
Michelle Russo.
Michelle Risto, W237S6830, Fernwood Drive, Waukesha, 53189. I'm addressing my opposition of REC. I care what happens to my neighborhood and community. I'm here to ask you to really look at the character of the developer, Mr. Weisha, that you are trusting with this project. Since 2018, Mr. Weishauer has been the defendant of 16 different civil court cases in Wisconsin, with 11 judgments of breach of contract, including account stated and anticipated breach of contract. One count of each of the following: breach of warranty, civil theft, damage to transmission facilities, and failure to contact your hotline, causing weak energy property damage. Implied contract with promise to pay reasonable value and procuring cause doctrine. Non-payment of wages, quantum rules, safe place, a violation of Wisconsin statutes, home improvement practices, as well as sales of goods provided. 2 counts of negligence, promissory estoppel, tax warrants, theft by contractor, and unjust enrichment. Only one of the 16 cases is still open. The total amount that Mr. Weishauer owes from those 16 lawsuits exceeds $800,000 in just under 8 years, which to raise a serious question about character, reliability, and accountability of Mr. Weichart and his company. If a resident of Big Bend has 16 lawsuits in 8 years and was looking to develop land, that person's character would be red flagged. Plus, I'm pretty sure that you would not want to allow that resident to develop any business in the village. When you are approving a project, you are not just approving the buildings and fields, you are also approving the developer as well. That is why I brought this bucket of slime with me, which represents Mr. Weichart's character. This also represents the mess that Big Bend will have when rec fails. It's fun to play with, but once it gets on you, it's hard to clean up. And the same goes for a developer with a messy legal history. Will definitely be a huge mess to clean up. By the way, if you approve this joke, you hurt the local septic companies. Thank you so much.
My name is Leah Risto. I live at W227S6830. Furniture Drive, Workshop 53189. My brother has high-functioning autism and can hear things others might not be able to hear. If there are a lot of cars around, he gets very stressed. And so does my dad. He was in the Army for many years and suffers from PTSD. And the crowds will stress my whole family out. And even when the neighbor girls are at their houses and they scream, he gets startled. And if this comes, my family will leave. And this development is not a good idea.
Good evening. My name is Ann Savage. My address is West 234, South 6040 Big Bend Road. My family owns agricultural land in the village of Waukesha, directly kitty corner to this project site. I have called this neighborhood home for 57 years. I'm here because while this project is in Big Bend, it has unique negative impacts on my family's agricultural property. Our acres will be devalued by the noise, light, and traffic this complex creates. Yet we will receive no tax relief or benefit from this development. Big Bend gets the revenue, but we are left with the nuisance. Our village side roads were not built to accommodate the volume of traffic this development will create. The massive influx of tournament traffic will spill onto our rural roads, making it dangerous and nearly impossible for farmers to move equipment between fields. This is a roadmap for traffic issues and accidents. Replacing 150 acres of absorbent farmland with pavers and turf threatens to change the water table and drainage patterns of our neighborhood. I'm concerned about the increased flooding and soil saturation that will ruin crops in the area. This sports complex is a city within itself being set into our rural neighborhood. The consistent stadium lighting and PA systems at times from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. will destroy the rural character that makes our family land valuable and our rural lifestyle possible. The village of Waukesha has already formally stated its opposition to this project. I urge all of you, the board and the commission, to respect your neighbors and your own zoning laws. Do not approve this project, which not only breaks the rules, but breaks the peace of our rural community. Thank you.
Mark's sitting.
Good evening, and thank you for letting us speak this evening. My name is Tina Doggett, address West 264, South 7520, Mount Whitney Avenue, Village Vernon. I struggled to find the right words for tonight, but after thinking about it, I realized the only thing I can do is speak honestly from my heart. We are not just a group of people here this evening. We are neighbors, we are friends, we are families, We are people who choose to live in this community because of the small town feeling. And that's why this matters so deeply for all of us. We are here because we know something big is at stake. We may not all agree with the solution, but we are all united in caring about what happens next. To the Village of Big Bend Board and the Planning Commission, please hear us. Not just our words, but our concerns and our fears in these villages that we call home. For all of our friends who live near the rec complex, this is personal. You understood that something might be built near you someday, but not something of this size, this impact, or this magnitude. This feels like more than just a development decision. It feels like a turning point for our community. We're asking you, please slow down, take a step back, and if possible, sit down with the boards of the Village of Vernon and the Village of Waukesha and talk openly. What made Big Bend feel that this is such a great thing to do? Let's discuss it. Can't we all come together and come up with some solutions for our communities so that we can all live together and get along? Let's not rush into something that is our 5 minutes. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Nope.
Can anybody hear me?
Nope. Closer to the mic.
I'm really close to this microphone. Please, pull it down. All right, Gregory Morris, W236S5513, Maple Hill Drive, Waukesha. What is the number?
Pushing it off.
Can you hear me now? Gregory Morris, W236S5513, Maple Hill Drive, Waukesha. I'm a citizen of the Village of Waukesha, however, I'm just over the hill from where this complex is going to be going. This thing is going to be built essentially on a junction where 3 different jurisdictions take place. That's kind of like building a bandstand at your neighbor's bedroom window. Maybe consider that when this decision is being made. What I'm going to tell you is think about a case study. Case study of the Rock Sports Complex in Franklin, Wisconsin. It was built by the city of Franklin, and they have been sued over and over and over and over for noise and sound pollution. All of those lawsuits have to be litigated. All those costs are passed on to the taxpayer. It's not going to go on to me. I'm not a resident of the Village of Big Bend. Other people in this room are. So you'll be impacted by that, and there will be lawsuits for every single phase of this development because the noise and sound pollution does increase. The one gentleman spoke to it. It is far beyond what a survey will say. I guess he's going to hold this one. Can you hear me again? Here we go. Essentially, read the room, put this thing to a referendum. It's going to impact your taxpayer base, and then it's also going to affect the nearby infrastructure. Big Bend Road that goes north through the Village of Waukesha, that is going to get a lot more traffic. The road is already like driving off-road, so just read the room and put this thing to a referendum.
Lynn Beard.
Hello.
My name is Lynn Ewart. I'm at S92W23080 Milwaukee Avenue in the Village of Big Bend. I definitely oppose this. I live, if you know me at all, I live by the Village Park. This is where you should focus. That park is beautiful. I can look out my window and see the beautiful sunsets. We need better equipment there for the kids. This is something that is needed. There is so much talk about what they're gonna do. They tore down trees to say that because they were diseased at the time, many years ago, 5, 6 years ago, and said that it was gonna not be a parking lot for the Rumble by the River, but that's what it turned out to be, is a parking lot for the Rumble. I deal with a lot of stuff going on through there, but there is a lot of room for improvement, and I think you should focus on that. And also, I agree, I've only heard it a couple times, that where is this vote? We need to vote on this. We need to make this a vote from the Village of Big Bend, the residents.
Crystal Hurd.
Crystal Hurd, W234-76450 Big Bend Road or Drive. I wanted to start tonight by saying that you started by saying the meeting was talking about CUP 16.25. And Part A, Section 3 says that it requires a proposed plan of operation describing hours of operation, hours of lights, parking lot hours, and lights. And Section B also talks about the intensity of use, such as number of customers, not just teams, number of employees, sizes of buildings. So if we want to talk about the CUP, that is one reason why it should not go through. Also, talking about the CUP in open records, we have an email that says, I believe we discussed the option of establishing an overarching conditional use permit with phased site plan approvals as a pathway to avoid additional public hearings for later phases. This approach recognizes that you may not have all the details for future phases fully defined at this time, but it would require that those phases generally align with the development parameters you are presenting. You yourself are acknowledging that they do not have detailed plans for future phases, and you are steering them or advising them on how to avoid additional public hearings. This, and the fact that you did not even tell neighbors within 300 feet any of this until the notice that was sent in the mail dated the 29th day of December, shows that you were waiting until the last possible minute to sneak it in before the proposal was due. This is a true definition of collusion, which is against the law, which states secret or illegal cooperation or conspiracy, especially in order to cheat or deceive others. This contradicts Eric's comments to the press that he wants to be neighborly, or the oath that you took when you joined the board. If you cannot 100% put your hand on the Bible to say this is what's best, please vote no.
Hello, my name is James Schmitter. I live at West 234 South 6370 Big Bend Road, Village of Vernon. I, like most people here, have concerns about lighting, noise, traffic, environmental, and the decline in property values. The purpose of parking for the complex, or I should say the proposed parking for the complex, is 1,561 stalls for the entire complex, including retail, hotel, etc., whatever was proposed on the frontage of 164. I have talked to many people that attend these types of complexes. The first thing they always said to me is the parking is a nightmare. Parking overflows propose on the neighboring streets. That is exactly what will happen here. New Berlin OAW has 700 parking stalls for one indoor facility. And sometimes that 700 spots are not enough. People are driving all or trying to find a spot. The Breck Complex proposes a large indoor facility bigger than OAW. If the facility takes up almost half of the 1,500 stalls, tournaments and that are going on at the same time as all fields are going on, the parking will be inadequate throughout the complex that will flow on the neighboring streets. You will have multi-tournaments and fields being used at the same time. Team spectators will be overlapping. Teams and spectators will be overlapping. So the recommendations by the Plan Commission on the amount of parking stalls per field will grossly be insufficient. By approving this without doing proper studies for the whole facility, not just part of it, is putting the cart before the horse. Be a good neighbor to Vernon and Waukesha. Do not approve this complex. There are better alternatives for development that would benefit all three of the communities, not one developer. Thank you.
Hello, Angela Rinaldi, South 68, West 25310, Longview Drive, Village of Vernon. A comp plan outlines a community shared vision for future growth and development. It clearly seems that this doesn't align with the past goals or the current. I don't believe the phase 1 of the proposed sports complex, which includes only the commercial business portion, is currently compatible with the village's comprehensive plan because the land is not designed for commercial use. The village's zoning code, chapter 16, is designed to implement the goals of the comp plan. There is insufficient evidence that the phase 1 can safely manage traffic, stormwater utilities, or neighborhood impacts, or that the necessary infrastructure improvements can be fully funded. Without this substantial evidence, the conditional use permit standards cannot be met and approval would be premature. Where is the substantial evidence that this sports complex is beneficial for the village of Big Bend or the village of Vernon? We don't know the exact numbers, referendum has not been done, but if I had to guess, it seems like about 98% of the community is against this. How can it be compatible with the village or the surrounding villages if that is true? Where is the outline and substantial evidence for economic benefit? How does this benefit the residents? And where is the substantial evidence that the quality of life would benefit the community? Thank you.
I'm sorry for the interruption here, but I just heard that your YouTube feed has stopped, and there's a question as to why. So,
Yeah, right, yeah, you're working on it.
thank you.
Tom Fritz, W29S8755 Water Street, Big Bend. I'm gonna shift what I was prepared to say and speak a little bit off the cuff. Look, this CUP, anyone who's been following this for any time knows that the CUP, it's just a workaround to get this thing done, to get it pushed through. I know it, you guys know it, the people behind me that you're supposed to represent, they know it. Like, seriously guys, what are you thinking? Where's your critical thinking? Are you just all gonna bow to the almighty Breck dollar now? Is that it? I mean, this is not only going to negatively impact Big Bend residents, but it's also going to negatively impact our Vernon neighbors. Let's talk about that for a minute. In the November meeting, when the developer was presented with the need for a public hearing regarding rezoning and potential public concerns that there will be for noise and light, he says, and I quote, "Well, there's no Big Bend residents there, right?" To which the commissioner responds, "No, but we still care about them," followed by a big hearty laugh shared by all. You guys should be ashamed of yourself. That's professionalism. You guys to make a right, unbiased decision. It was asked earlier, why is this being ramrodded down our throats? I'll tell you why. Because the unbiased or the biased nature of this, some of these people sitting up here, is glaringly obvious. In that November meeting, Mr. Renner was so excited, he could not stop gushing. He stated, and I quote, "This is going to be awesome for the area. I'm excited. Let's build it. Let's figure it out. It's the catalyst we need." Well, I assure you, Mr. Renner, and everybody else up here, I promise you, 99% of the people behind me do not share that sentiment.
Jen Fritz, W229S8755 Mulberry Street, Big Bend. The primary role of any public official is to serve the public interest with integrity, prioritizing community well-being over any personal agenda. To listen to their concerns with an unbiased ear and go from there. When our community raised concerns regarding the potential impacts of the proposed Breck complex, concerns that deeply affect our families, investments, and quality of life, some current board and commission members have made their true colors known on social media. First are some quotes from March of 2024 from trustee Brian Bindle when running for election. "I choose to move here because Big Bend offers the charm of a small town. I want to keep taxes low. I think the current priorities are not in sync with the residents. Finally, and most importantly, residents of the village deserve elected officials who can represent their best interests and who they can trust." These statements are grossly inconsistent with Mr. Bindle's recent online behavior. He has been patronizing, agitating, biased, even blocking the very constituents he represents. When questioned by a resident regarding how well he is fulfilling his original campaign statements and his running for re-election this April, he flippantly stated he's running unopposed with no write-in, so he should be okay to be re-elected. Tell me how the public can have confidence and trust in an elected official that mocks their concerns or even blocks them when they voice their opposition to an issue he would be voting on. After the January joint hearing, trustee Josh Grover also chose to jump on the bandwagon and publicly mock citizens' specific concerns about impact on water resources, wildlife displacement, and wanting studies to be done before decisions are made. The egregious behavior of numerous other appointed commission members is too vast for my time allowance. Does the village have no criteria regarding public conduct of public officials that represent them at large? Their role is to serve the community, but they apparently just can't help themselves and have zero self-control to keep the schoolyard bully in them at bay. They are the definition of unprofessional and clearly do not understand.
Listen to our concerns, not
Please be
reply to
respectful.
Paul
Voss.
That's your choice.
Good evening, Paul Voss, W227S8775, Joanne Drive. Thank you, guys. A lot of tough comments tonight. I'm here to stand in favor of this. I know there's a lot of concerns and I can empathize with those. On the other hand, my family and I moved here nearly a decade ago because we did like the small town atmosphere. Do you know what else I like? I like a growing and thriving community. I like the opportunities that this could bring. Jobs for my high school daughter, opportunities and income that is spent in the area, the local businesses, not just of Big Bend, but of Vernon, but of Waukesha. and other opportunities that this could grow to provide for this area. I understand that there are concerns, and I appreciate the fact that this committee, that this commission, and that this board has taken to consider these studies, and I trust that you will continue to do so. But at the end of the day, I do believe that this is going to bring an opportunity to this community that we cannot pass up. I grew up in a town in Michigan that is much the same size as this. We passed up opportunities. That community began to die. And I don't want to be up here to fearmonger, but this does give us an opportunity to grow, to strengthen, and to continue to develop this area for the residents. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the willingness to listen. And I trust that you guys will consider what is best for the community of Big Bend.
My name is Deanne Sylvia. I live at S67W23715 Vernon Court. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I've been disheartened by everything I've read on social media recently. There's been a lot of posts directed at residents surrounding the area saying such things as, if we don't like it, then move. Or asking, why don't we buy the land ourselves? Or, you don't have a say because you don't belong to the village of Big Bend. To those people who say such things, I say, help me. My house has the potential of losing up to 20% or more of its value. My family and my neighbors will have to deal on a daily basis with increased traffic, litter, noise, light pollution, and more until at least 11 p.m., if not later. And we are just supposed to sit by and take it? Put yourself in our shoes, and I think your tune will change rather quickly. For those of you who are for the sports complex, because you believe in the benefits the sports complex has to offer children, would agree that team sports offer children the benefit of increased physical activity, emotional skills, discipline, improved time management, a sense of belonging, and social engagement. However, competitive youth sports have grown to a point that has caused many children to have mental health issues from feeling extreme pressure to perform and intense competition that leads to conflict and stress, being bullied by teammates, coaches, and parents, losing sleep from trying to keep up with schoolwork and home life, leading to reduced downtime and burnout, increased risk of injury, especially as children start playing more intensely at a young age while they are still growing, and not to mention the financial burden, reduced family time, time constraints, and parental stress it puts on many households. This complex is supporting all these negative impacts that are resulting from the increase in club sports. So this has me wondering, why can't kids just be kids anymore? It seems to me that the issues of this complex far outweigh the benefits. Thank you.
Drop the beat.
Sorry about that, Stan.
My name is Jackie Dearborn. I live at W235-6720 Salem Court. I overlook my bedroom, overlooks this proposal, which means, well, think of it. I handed the trustees the paperwork I received from the Byrne Village assessor. He said this will impact my property, maybe even up to 25%, something my husband and I have worked for. We spent money making our house what we wanted for our home. trees, actually, a whole bunch of them, so that the animals would have a nice habitat. So we could look at them out our windows and enjoy what nature gave us, not some sports complex. At the beginning of the meeting, you said, well, listen to us, but do you care about us? You also said, thank you for the respect. But does putting this in show respect to us? Or are you just going to do what you want and ignore the people that you work for and you represent? On the January 29th meeting, Mr. Steve Atkins gave everybody some very good paperwork. We provided it to my husband and I. Have you looked at that? Have you considered that? Or do you just have money? This is not going to benefit Big Bend. It's going to cost us. And I, too, put a letter to each of you regarding the lawsuits that Mr. Weischer has. Take a look at that. Is he going to be honest and deal correctly with us? Think about it.
Hi, my name is Ashley Bellman Harriman. I live at West 254 South 8320 Hilo Drive, proud member and owner of a home in the Village of Vernon. This whole decision of this project feels so rushed forward, like it's already signed, sealed, and delivered, regardless of what residents and neighboring residents have expressed. You can call it development, you can call it progress, but let's be honest, this is way over development. People didn't choose to live here to be surrounded by upscale developments like a new hotel and a new gas station next to Quick Trip. And let's be honest, Big Bend isn't exactly overflowing with amenities right now. Your park needs work. You reach out to Vernon, paramedics and fire department for help. There's not much for families to get excited about, and even events like Rumble by the River are clearly promoted to people who live here. So instead of investing in what we already have, we're jumping straight to major development and infrastructure. That changes everything. I hope this is a decision that you all are proud to own, because we all of us, are the ones who will live with the consequences. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Jay Petra, Village of Vernon, trustee number 1. I reside at W258-S7005 Oakdale Road. I just want to say that this proposed sports complex is a problem that is spilling over into 3 different communities: Village of Vernon, Village of Waukesha, and the Village of Big Bend. I want to say this, with this complex coming in, there will be major problems with traffic, noise, light pollution, and I thought to myself, my gut instinct was, what if they decide to have concerts at that facility? And I found out they're trying to petition in Franklin. I worked out at Alpine Valley in my younger years, and believe me, performers on the stage do know how to use foul language. And with that coming in, with the concert goers, I will say this: there is an awful lot of drinking that goes on there, and of course, they would be loitering and drinking in the parking lot before the concert after the concert. So please, I really ask if you would take what the people are, take into consideration what the people are saying. That's all.
Can you hear me now? Okay. You know, there's gonna be winners and there's gonna be losers in this proposal. And there's a lot of speculation. And things may be better, but I got a feeling they're gonna be worse. This would be a very simple solution to solve everything. Why are we taking surveys and doing all kinds of things to find out if this is a good idea? We're looking at water, we're looking at roads, we're looking at all kinds of things. Why don't we start with the people in Big Bend? Why don't we just find out first, before we even do anything, if they're for this? They voted you in as to represent them, but why don't you find out what they want? And why don't we have a referendum before you go any farther? Is Big Bend interested in doing this? Let's ask the people of Big Bend. I have a feeling you already know the answer. That's why you don't want to have a referendum. The other thing is, you know, you can do all the surveys and convincing people of Big Bend, they know already what they want. Why don't you ask them? You're not going to convince them, they've already made up their mind. I don't care how good you think this is, they've already made up their mind. They don't want this. Personally, it doesn't really affect me. I might not even live long enough to see the complex be built. But you know what? The people of Big Bend deserve to vote on it. Whatever they decide on, I'm willing to go along with whatever it is. Are you willing to go along with it? Put a referendum. Let the people vote to see if we even want to move any farther. You're going to spend all this money with investigating if this is a good idea or a bad idea. Let's find out if the people want this first. We don't need any more surveys, investigation. Do they want to move forward with this? Let's give them a chance to vote on it. Let's have a referendum, and if we got enough people who want this, go for it. I'll live with the decision. I think everyone else will live with the decision. They may not like
I'm
it.
sorry, your 2 minutes is up.
Usually I speak loudly enough that I don't need one of these, but if you can hear me, I'm good. Thank you, board, for being here. Thank you, several hundred of my neighbors and friends. When the first speakers here were talking about evidentiary and emotion, and I'm just the facts man kind of do, Joe Friday and me, the same. But the thing is, emotion is evidence. It's clear and indisputable evidence of the incompatibility of this development with our community. And there's a word in the CUP that has community to attach it to whatever I just said. I don't know those words exactly. I do know what compatibility means. And everyone here has been respectful with values that concern their life and livelihood. Compatibility is the word I'm looking at. Now there's 300 to 400 people here, and they're parking up and down the highway. Thank you for putting your butt in that bleacher for so long, because you care. Now, I haven't sat in one for so long since 6th grade band concerts, and but I'm more concerned about walking the distance from my car. It's parked on the side of the road in the ditch, like I'm gonna have in front of my home, on a knee that's gonna be replaced on Monday. And I don't know what's worth now, my knee or my butt, but anyways. So we've got 300 to 400 people, that's 20% of the population of Big Bend. Any weekend, we might have 3 and 4 times the population of Big Bend in that property. That property is not an island, but it's almost an island. There's a thread of property, I'm a geologist, and we'll save that for another day, but it's like, the neighbors aren't Big Bend. The neighbors are Vernon, and Waukesha, and the rest. The thing is, the neighbors will suffer the physical consequences, but it's Big Bend that's gonna suffer the fiscal consequences. It's like, we'll endure everything that emotion is exhibited here, but the price tag will ultimately be on my friends in Big Bend. The lovely community I drove down in tonight, past the gas station I stopped at, and the pizza joint I eat at. And they're parked out, and we're parked along the highway. Good luck.
Good evening, Al White, West 245, South 6115 Redwood Drive, Village of Waukesha. Go back to your code of 16.25, we brought up earlier right off the bat. Violations of compatibility, I'm not even sure how you get around the compatibility, it is. And you can prove that to me. You got to prove that to me, because it just doesn't make the standards of compatibility that's in the area that we have right now. Comprehensive plan to change your comprehensive plan today, what you have on your records right now doesn't mean your code that you're in now. The safety issue was brought up too. If you don't think this is a safety issue over here at this complex, then you're not hearing us folks talk over here in the audience here tonight. Phase 1 of this development is, if we start this phase 1 is just one of many more to come. You start this phase 1, and there's lots more to come with other amenities that these folks out here, myself, do not like, and don't want to entertain. We want to keep this a rural area. That's what we brought our houses up here for, and we don't want to turn Big Bend into a city. We want to keep it a village, just like the surrounding communities here. Village of Waukesha, Village of Vernon, both heads of their communities, both wrote you guys letters saying they're opposed of this opposition. I really would like you guys to open your ears to listen to communities and a bunch of folks. Let's be good neighbors, stay rural, okay? Please talk to neighboring communities, and before you start making decisions, and good luck to you folks. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
Kaylin Collins, West 244 South 7360 Greenbrier Drive. As of today, the DNR water permit site still shows pending status as REC has not filled their application requirements for the water permit. I spoke at the end of February to Adam Mendick, who is the Environmental Impact Director for the state of Wisconsin. He had not even heard of this project. I spoke to Craig Webster, who is with the DNR of Waukesha. He had not heard, he'd only heard about it on the news. I received a letter from Katie Pradell of the DNR, and the only permit that had been pulled for this project was that of the water delineation project. The water delineation shows significant wetlands and floodplains in this area. For any
grading or changes of elevation, the DNR would have to be contacted, and they haven't been as of yet for this project. Also, the rusty patched bumblebee, which many people don't care about, is an endangered species. It's a federal and a state endangered species. As a rural community who still has agriculture, this endangered species is we are only one of 8 states that still have this species. DOT studies have not been completed as of this time. This complex was turned down by New Berlin. You can read their reasoning on their websites. It's open records. I request that Big Bend also.
Paul Rockenbach, West 234, South 6540, Big Bend Road, right across the street from whatever phase would be the big ass building. I got one question. This is supposed to be all phase 1, right? The CUP that would change the way they can just do business to phase 2 and just keep going on to phase 3 and phase 4. There's no rendering for phase 1, but there's a rendering for everything east of the power lines that you didn't even like vote on, but he's got all these buildings and stuff planned for stuff east of the power lines that's not even part of this. So you can do phase 1, but you're just gonna let him go on and on, and you're just gonna change the zoning for that, just because he got phase 1. So this guy, whatever, I don't know, he's just too lazy to put out a rendering for phase 1, phase 2, with everything on it. I want to see a rendering or something done that doesn't include the residential areas touched, because that's not involved in any of this. Why are we showing a property that has residential stuff with commercial buildings on it? What kind of, it's just lazy. Why does he do that? He just wants to be sued in the future again? How would you, I don't know why you guys want to do business with a guy like that. That's all I gotta say, sorry.
My name is Matt Flowers. I'm West 258, South 6645, Pheasant Avenue, resident of Vernon. I want to begin with something, gets back to the island issue. And it should matter to every person on this board. The people who are in this room essentially have no representation on this board largely. There are a lot of Vernon, there are a lot of Big Bend residents, but there are an awful lot of Vernon here too. And I'll get to what's important about that later. We cannot vote for you, yet the consequences will fall directly upon us. Tonight, you're being asked to approve conditional use, the pathway to advance the project, which under public record was notified you use that as a pathway to approval for the larger project. Traffic, noise, lighting, stormwater, safety, property values, every one of those burden the landowners in Vernon are going to see, not yours. I would be willing to bet, I don't know a survey, but less than 10% of your voters actually live across the highway. When a municipality imposes substantial burdens on a neighboring community without representation, courts take notice. And if this is pushed through without completing studies and without a full record, the next phase is no mystery. It's to be challenged aggressively, comprehensively, and through every legal channel available. Being in a church tonight seems almost fitting because I'm fully prepared to devote and tithe towards that purpose. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Will help out. It is beyond me. So extraterritorial use. The people from Vernon in this community, your neighboring communities, Waukesha, Vernon, they don't vote you in, yet they are the impacted individuals. I can assure you, I will not ignore a single administrative error. Nothing. I will scour it. I'm very determined and I'm very resourceful. It's very frustrating. The ordinances that were cited earlier, they were literally just changed. The ordinances were not in place previously to allow it. They were changed to allow it. So yes, maybe the local ordinances are correct, but they were not as of recently. There's a million different pathways that we can use to fight this as well. Not out of anger, but out of responsibility. Thank you.
I'm Julie Kubash. I live South 66, West 2470 Skyline Avenue. I'm 3/4 of a mile away from the complex. I think it is going to affect me, but my heart is broken for the people who are next door. I'm sick to my stomach. Somebody said nobody up there is looking you in the eye, and I understand why you're not looking these people in the eye. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. You're ruining people's lives, and it's on your shoulders. So that's what I want to start with. And then I want to move on to the Village of Big Bend, because I believe this is only going to come to a stop through legal actions for the Village of Big Bend residents. And I don't think anybody in this room is talking enough about the 1,500 people who are going to be responsible for $225 million worth of infrastructure. Let's talk about the fact that the population is going down. The Village of McGuanago is talking about losing 25% of their student body in the next 20 years. 20 years from now, when you're saying we're gonna start, your Village of Big Bend people are gonna start reaping the benefits of this tax, they're not gonna have the kids to pay. Because the Gen Z kids, they're not having children. This is a fad. And it's gonna be great for somebody's gonna make a lot of money in the next 10 years, but the Village of Big Bend is gonna keep on paying and keep on paying. And what's the plan? And people say on the internet, I said something about concerts or food trucks, and ooh, scary concerts or food trucks. But you know what? When that infrastructure runs out of money, they're gonna come to whoever's on this board then, and they're gonna say, if we don't have concerts and we don't have food trucks, we're gonna go out of business, and then what's gonna happen to the Village of Big Bend? It's about the money, and I think you guys have stars in your eyes. I don't understand what you think. How are your 1,500 Village of Big Bend residents supposed to take responsibility for all of this infrastructure? The sewer, the water, the police, the empty buildings that could end up there in 20 years. It is very logically and very obviously too big for the Village of Big Bend. I don't understand how anyone could think otherwise unless there's a reason. And I'd like to see something. Why don't all you people up here, all the bullies on the internet, why don't you give us reasons? Why is it gonna be better? Because I haven't heard one thing of why my life will be better because of it.
I'm Sharon Peterson, and I live in South 60, West 24360 Redwood Drive. And I'm going to be talking to you, I think, just from my reaction to this whole thing from an emotional level. And I guess what I'm coming up here to say is, and ask the board, is that as you listen to this, I've lived there since 1994, and everything that's been said about feeling safe, feeling in an outward, in a community, in a village and not a city. I was born and raised in Milwaukee, and living out here has just been wonderful. My husband and I are very, very happy. I have a handicap, so if I walk up and down the street, I feel safe. If I'm watching the kids that are walking up and down the street, I feel safe. As I watch my neighbors walking their animals, I feel safe. It frightens me with the thought of cars with all the more traffic coming up and down the streets and doing these things. It frightened me with just the changes that will happen. And I guess what I'm asking you as board members is, as you listen to all of this, if you could just think about if you lived in the Village of West Bend, or Big Bend, excuse me, and how you might feel about this. Because I think that a lot of times when we're looking at it, okay, this is financially smart, this is a good thing, this is that, but it's not like, how are you really feeling? How does it affect you as human beings? And that's what I'm asking you tonight, because as you hear this, if you think about how would it impact you if this were your home, and all of a sudden someone was asking to completely change it, to have taxes be raised, have tax water and things like this be changed. All of a sudden, have much more traffic, have much more loudness. And how would this impact me? It would change my life. And so I'm asking you to please consider it. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Diana Perigo. I live at South 67 West 23785 Skyline Avenue. Pretending that the shield up here is this complex, I live at the A in the complex. I am right across the street from where you are proposing this complex. It's not easy for me. I'm a 79-year-old widow woman trying to keep her house up, keep her community proud of my property, and yet you want to put this big structure across from my property and devalue my property, take away my unemployment, take away my Social Security and everything else that I've got going for me right now. You don't live where I do. Not one of you live right across the street from this facility. You have no idea what it's going to be like. The traffic. I can't take my dogs out for a walk anymore because the traffic is going to be so obnoxious over there. The roads right now on my side of the gully are nearly 5 feet deep because of all the water that comes through from the field. You really have to take a few minutes right now and think about what you're going to do. And don't think about yourself because you don't live there. Think about me. I am the widow next door that has to live with this. And like Laura Gator says, I will survive. Thank you.
From what I've heard tonight, there sounds like questionable character, questionable reasons, and I don't know why, who is or who is against it on the board, but I do know this, you have 2 attorneys who may need more, and your residents are going to be paying for that. For the things that have been said, there is enough doubt that things can be taken to court, and whether or not you win or lose, let me tell you, you can win, but it's going to cost the residents of Big Bend an awful lot of money. And knowing what you heard tonight, if half of the stuff is true, you're going to have to talk to your attorneys to find out if any of you are going to be liable for not standing up for your citizens, which you're supposed to. I would think somebody representing me in the village would be, well, let's see what we can do to make Ted's taxes cheaper, not make Ted's taxes more. If you did something where you're behind in money, maybe you should start a GoFundMe page instead of adding all kinds of money on people's taxes. Irregardless of how it's going to affect my property, the noise, the light, and everything else, you are putting your citizens in dire consequences and possibly yourselves. Because like I said, if any of these things that have been talked about, as far as credibility to people, you may be responsible and called into court, and yes, you may win, but it's going to cost you money out of your pocket.
Chris Rock, South 63 West 24515 Town Line Road. The village attorney started this meeting by telling us about compatibility and if this conditional use should be granted. I think it's pretty clearly obvious by the number of people that spoke tonight that we don't feel that this is compatible use for the area. Out of all the people that came up and spoke tonight, I believe there were 3 individuals that were in favor of this. I also want to ask you to consider if this is gonna affect surrounding property values to decrease by 20 to 25%, how is that gonna affect property taxes collected? And are you gonna have to increase the mill rate to keep property taxes brought in at the current levels? Thank you.
My name is Teresa Daring. I live at W237S6735 Fernwood Drive. Regarding phase 1 of the sports complex, the driveway from 164 to the parking lot will be gravel. The rest of the roads and parking lots will be Breckenridge landscaping, permeable pavers, or in similar terms, spaced out bricks. Has anyone tried to accelerate a motor vehicle on gravel roads? Nothing but wheel spin. Someone trying to access 164 from this property will certainly become an accident statistic with the traffic from 164. While I'm no expert, common sense would point to the need for non-gravel driveway to depart from this property onto 164 without solely relying on the side road of town line. This gravel may also cause these pavers to fail. Gravel and other organic materials will get within the cracks of these pavers and limit water drainage through the gaps. This will lead to runoff, erosion, and other issues. These pavers are not meant for high traffic volume circumstances. They are high maintenance items. This information comes from Milwaukee County Zoo groundskeeper Matt, Botanical Garden Supervisor Cassie, and former Assistant Executive Groundskeeper Carol Howard of the Weir Nature Center. It should be noted that all these mentioned locations used the previously mentioned Breckenridge Landscaping Company. It should also be noted that this landscaping company's merit is questionable and is consistently being sued for failing to meet their requirements. Don't believe me? Look up the company in Wisconsin Court Public Records. All studies and surveys need to be done and should be reviewed by a third and impartial party to avoid these biases and favoritism. That's all.
Good evening, my name is Gina Sticka. I reside at W246, that's 6370 Clearview Lane in Vernon. My husband spoke earlier today. I was going to reserve my comments for the next meeting. I understand the next phase will be able to make comments. I'm specifically interested in baseball fields, but for tonight's purposes, I just want to highlight what was spoken about during the November 2025 meeting. I wasn't there, but like many of us here, I watched it on video. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you do so. During that meeting, Mr. Wishart said, and I quote, is that better?
No, you gotta get closer.
Get closer.
There you go. Thank you.
He estimated, quote, 170 to 200 baseball teams per weekend for tournaments, end quote. He continued to say, quote, all summer long, every weekend for the next couple of decades, we should expect this traffic. I thought that was interesting. He also said this will, quote, be the biggest probably in the state, end quote, referring to the athletic complex. He also noted that in addition to youth sports, there may likely be corporate events held here and collegiate teams playing here. Do yourself a favor and look up the collegiate teams that play in Wisconsin. Big money. Finally, the one quote one of the board members made, doesn't matter who it was, watch the video. Quote, you've seen these complexes in other parts of the country. They look like a spaceship taking off. Interesting. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Joseph Jackson, W228S 9155 Putnam Street, Big Bend. I'm probably a minority here, which I know as a Big Bend resident. And I want to first applaud the board. We all hired them by voting, and we all voted the old progressive board out. They are forward-thinking, progressive, pro-business, and this is an absolute benefit to the community and our tax base. I'm worried about Big Bend, and that's what the board should be worried about as well. The old board was not in favor of a giant opportunity, which was the fleet fund. And who is benefiting from that? Mosquito, not Big Bend. Think about that. This is a great opportunity for all of the local sports teams. I'm affiliated with a local soccer club, and I am affiliated or have partnerships with many other soccer clubs that will benefit from this. And these are local people, not out-of-state people, that will be benefiting from this. And everything stays here. And the money comes here and stays here in our own community. And this will not impact taxes, as everyone's fearing. Yeah, laugh all you want.
What are you smoking?
Nothing. So you can all have your own opinions, but you're only here because you live over there. You're not part of Big Bend. That's all I got to say.
We have now time for one more minute.
Okay.
Make it good.
I will try. I will try. I'm the shortest one, I think, who just spoke, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Okay, my name is Sherry Bucket. I am at W235 South 7670. I use the Big Bend mailing address because Vernon doesn't have a post office. I thought that was great to say because I was part of two communities. And now I'm really concerned. So you are saying, the last gentleman, that it was a great idea for Big Bend to have this complex. And I feel bad for you guys because you're in this quandary where you have to find the right balance. What's gonna grow Big Bend? Is it gonna be this? I'm thinking not. I'm thinking not. There's a lot of impacts that this facility is gonna have on Vernon, on Waukesha, and on Big Bend. Big Bend is beautiful. We do things trying to promote the small community, and that I think is something that's amazing. Vernon is doing the same thing, very community-oriented. I came from Milwaukee. I came because of all the things that everybody here is gonna say is important to them. You've got to think bigger picture. This is going to be a rock complex, or like a facility that's down 164 that I don't know the name of right off the top of my head. There are better opportunities for the board to consider grocery stores. That'd be a big one. We don't have anything close. You could do 55 and over community, a great residential without going and changing any of the zoning restrictions. There's so many more options that are going to give you better revenue generation and return for every single one here. Please think broader than what you are. You're impacting everybody. I think we teach our kids that your decisions affect others. Please take that as a learning experience and a rule that you should use when you're making this decision. We thank each one of you for your time today. I think it's very nice that you guys listen to each one of us, but please really do listen. I tell my kids to be active listeners and be respectful of each other and the others that are around them. In business, we have to do that same thing. And sometimes you have to make the hard decisions. This is not a hard decision to make. The answer is no to this particular opportunity. However, be in search of more that fit within the goals of the organization and the community here. Thank you.
Okay, we've gone past our 2-hour time limit on public comments. So I am going to call for a motion to close off this public hearing from the planning commission side. Okay.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, further discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Village board, we are ready to close our public hearing. Do I have a motion? We have a motion by Gordon, second by Josh. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
We're going to take a 10-minute recess here, so get a drink, use water.
I'm gonna stay as long as I can, but I'm gonna push myself by the goal. Those
All right, let's call this meeting of planning commission to order. Same roll call into the public hearing, everybody's here. We'll move on to item 2, consideration and approval of minutes from Thursday, February 19, 2026. Motion and got a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as stated.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 3, business discussion / action items. Item A, review, discussion, possible recommendations of a comprehensive plan / future land use map amendment to redesignate approximately 40 acres of the subject property from low medium density residential to commercial in order to align with the proposed direct athletic complex development. The property is located at West 235 South 6465 Big Bend Drive on 150.49 acres. Parcel DDV 2022999-002. Owner Eric Weichart, agent Claire Roth. This is an item that was tabled on January 29th. Sure, please.
And just a quick overview, you mentioned it earlier, but again, this is one of the items that was discussed at the January 29th public hearing. This specific request is to amend the future land use plan from the current designation. And again, this is the 40 acres east of the power lines. They are currently in a low, medium density residential land use plan designation. This request would amend those 40 acres from that residential category to the commercial land use plan designation. Did the applicant want to speak to the request at all? Probably be a good time for that. No? Okay.
No, it's not. No, at the end of the planner's report here, he's got possible conditions for comprehensive amendment. Possible conditions for rezoning and possible conditions.
That makes sense for you to go over that?
Up to you guys. If you
Yes.
guys want.
I would say, yeah, like the possible conditions and such, that section where you're kind of giving your narrative.
And again, they're light for the comprehensive plan, but, yeah, you have to address a few additional things. So again, the comprehensive plan, there's also a rezoning request on the table tonight. Rezoning request need to be consistent with, the community's comprehensive plan per state law. And so this request would make that rezoning request possible. So I just wanted to know the reason for that in terms of staff recommended conditions. If there's a consideration to approve, we're simply, there really aren't any, conditions for the comprehensive plan amendment. We're suggesting that they tie it to if you're inclined to amend the 40 acres, that you tie it to rec. Or you consider tying it to rec versus just making it a broad brush change to commercial. And what that would mean is that if the rec project didn't happen, but the land use plan changed to commercial, that would, I guess, arguably make it easier for a future developer to rezone to commercial because the land use plan designation would be placed. So really, what staff are recommending, if you're inclined to change, is they can consider tethering it essentially to the rec project. Not making just a Pandora's box type of change, redesignating it from the land use plan. Any other questions from the commission for me? Again, this is a recommendation to the board. It's a good question. The question was, is this a requirement for the conditional use permit? And so the answer is no. The plan amendment, land use plan amendment in the rezone are necessary for the developer to get approval for a PUD, not just for the 110 acres, but a PUD to include these 40 acres. But tonight's conditional use request is not located within that 40 acres, so technically, no. But the PUD would have to be amended. You couldn't approve the PUD within that 40 acres. So the PUD approval, which the conditional use does need, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but the conditional use does need PUD approval, but not the plan amendment, that's strictly the 40 east acres east of the power line.
So basically, we could hold off technically on the rezone and the comprehensive plan. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and you kick me under the table if I speak out of turn. You do not have to take action on the comp plan or the base rezone. So if the committee was inclined to take action on the conditional use, you would not have to take action on the base rezone from part to before. You would not have to take action on the comprehensive plan. But you do have to take action on the PUD. That could be a modified action that did not include the 40, or was based on a rezoning, future-based rezoning, should the village be so inclined. So you'd have to address that PUD issue, because the CUP needs the PUD, but it does not need the 40 acres to be addressed at this time. So while we're deliberating here, or thinking, I'll just read the conditions recommended by staff. One, approval of a comprehensive plan, future land use amendment, redesignating approximately 40 acres of the subject property from residential to commercial is granted specifically to accommodate the proposed rec athletic complex development concept as presented to the village. Approval of the comprehensive plan amendment shall be expressly contingent upon final approval by the village board of the associated zoning map amendment and planning and development overlay district for the subject property. If the zoning map amendment or PUD overlay district are not approved, comprehensive plan amendment shall be null and void and of no force or effect. And the third, there's five. The comprehensive plan amendment shall become effective only if the applicant obtains approval of conditional use permit and site plan for development that is consistent with or less intensive than the development concept presented to the village within 3 years of the effective date of approval. I don't have to keep going, folks, but I'll keep going. In the event that a conditional use permit and site plan consistent with the approved development concept are not approved within 3 years, the comprehensive plan amendment may be reconsidered by the village board. The future land use map designation may be returned to the prior residential category. And lastly, that there is an attorney review.
Kind of seems like it would make sense then to hold off on 40 acres until we see where we're going. There's so many questions to be answered. Why go do it until we need to do it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? We can't hear back here. I don't think.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Speak up.
It seems to me like we should maybe wait. Just saying, I think that maybe it makes sense to wait on the 40 acres from residential to commercial until we see, there's so many questions that need to be answered yet, until we can maybe see where this is going.
So Greg, your recommendation, what you're saying is you think that, are you talking about just tabling the first?
Just the 40-acre, designation?
Yeah, I was about to say, you're talking about potentially tabling A and B for now? Until we get any more information back that we need?
That's kind of thinking.
I think that's kind of what we talked a little bit about before, but not.
I'm sorry, was there a question? I don't know.
No, we're
He was
just
asking
talking
for his
about,
feedback.
yeah, if we think that's the right way to go. I mean, we do have a lot of things we're waiting on yet, right? As far as,
And that 40 acres is for later phases anyways. So there is no rush to change. Am I right, Ben, or am I?
It's a later, it's not part of the current request.
Correct.
It's been identified as a later phase. We don't really know when that will occur, but it's not part of the current request to use the land.
well, I guess I would make a motion to table this until we get past the CUP here phase.
I would second that, table A and B, so we get more information back.
I was just going to suggest that you have two options here. You could defer it and then bring it back at an appropriate planning commission meeting in the future. If you table it, generally they're similar. Tabling usually doesn't need a date which you're going to bring it back in the actual motion. If you don't know, you can defer it, then bring it back at the appropriate time. If you table it, then you probably just want to put it.
Okay.
Amending the motion to table to be deferred, right?
You could just withdraw it if there's unanimous consent.
Just withdraw that motion?
Is there unanimous consent if he withdraws the motion?
Is what you're saying is because we don't know exactly when we'll get the information back by the next meeting, that you think it's a better option for it for now? Is that what the statement was?
Yeah, otherwise that information, because we don't know.
Because we might not have it back by the next planning commission meeting,
Right,
and then
so
we're
we should-
gonna have a whole nother thing where we have to talk about.
We have to put it on the agenda.
And again, and again, and again.
Right, so basically what we're gonna have to defer it. And Greg, you would have to withdraw your motion, and you'd have to withdraw your second, and then a new motion in regards to deferring it.
I will withdraw my motion. Greg?
That 40 acres is part of future phases, there's no rush.
Correct. So I think Greg, what he's asking us is to rescind our motions and then.
I withdraw my motion to table.
You wanna make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a new motion to defer until further date, until further along.
And you can give direction to staff to bring it back at the appropriate time based upon where you are in the project.
Yeah, based on the staff's recommendations. We'll defer to that.
Is that item A and B?
That would be item A and B.
Is there a second yet or no? I will make the second motion to defer A and B then until we have more.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion deferred. We voted to defer items A and B on the agenda. Deferring is different than the tabling, as the attorney explained. Deferring, we don't have a definitive date on when we will reconvene on those two topics. that would eventually happen next month. Now we move on to item C, review, discussion, and possible recommendation of a planned unit development, PUD overlay district request and associated general development plan for a phased athletic and mixed-use development known as Rec Athletic Complex, including establishment of development standards and maximum building and lighting heights. The property is located at West 235 South 6465 Big Bend Drive on 150.49 acres. Parcel BBB 202299902. Owner White Shark, agent Claire Roth. This is another item that was tabled back in January.
So, planned unit development is available to provide dimensional flexibility, and so the developer is proposing the planned unit development overlay district to accommodate the structures that will exceed the district height limitation of, I believe, 40 feet, maybe slightly off. Specifically, they are proposing, again, as part of the PUD, an indoor sports training facility which would have a height of 70 feet anticipated, a hotel with a max height of 50, and athletic field lighting towers that could reach a maximum height of 85 feet. So again, this PUD overlay district, as I noted, is to provide for that additional flexibility within the development. It is being proposed across the entirety of the proposal. There have been some prior discussions tonight about the 40 acres, which is likely to require some change to some of the conditions here, should the commission want to move forward. Beyond that, there are several conditions to consider in your report if you're inclined to move forward with this, and I'm happy to answer any questions that folks may have.
In case anyone is wondering what a planned unit development is, if you look in the code, in the chapter, the zoning chapter, it is on page 11, and I'll just give you for the purposes of discussion how it's defined in the code. Planned unit development, a method of developing properties through the design of all components of a planning unit which satisfies the use, access, sanitation, building, and environmental regulations without the use of standardized zoning restrictions. Planning unit development may permit certain flexibility as to the underlying zoning district requirements to the extent such flexibility may result in benefits to be realized by the developer and the village. So sometimes when zoning is created and the parameters are set, and you can't always see into the future and see all the opportunities that may arise, or you might not see what it is in technology or what have you, that might not be allowed by the underlying zoning. So the planning unit development is sort of a mechanism by which you're generally in the right place, but you need some of those use, access, sanitation, building, environmental regulations, some flexibility there that's generally consistent with the overall intent. So that's how the code defines what a planning unit development is.
Sounds to me like you guys are going ahead with it. I'm leaving. I can't stop you. God bless you. It's unfortunate you're not asking the people who live here if they want to do this. Why can't you put it on a referendum and ask the people of Big Bend if they want this? I know why, because they'd eat you up alive. Hasta la vista.
And so again, this planned unit development outlines essentially a general development plan for this proposal. This in and of itself does not authorize any use or
construction of any structure. It simply lays out the broad parameters for development, the maximum heights of structures, and other zoning parameters that they have to fit within the subsequent conditional use requests. And so they'll still need to bring forward conditional use requests as they are tonight for phase one, and for future phases, those conditional use requests would have to be consistent with the standards established in the general development plan of the plan development district that's being considered tonight.
So if I'm hearing this right, with the PUD, if I'm hearing this right, with the PUD, this is not, if the recommendation goes through to the board for the PUD, this is not any way, shape, or form make this a done deal. It just means that they have the opportunity to go forward and to show all of their, the stuff that we need or that you need, correct?
That's correct. This is a zoning district. That's what we're talking about tonight. We're establishing a zoning district. It is truly that. And so when we rezone lands, that simply entitles lands for certain possible uses, and that's what we're talking about here. We understand this is very specific to Bragg Athletic. We all understand that, but the case is that without the conditional uses, there is no Bragg Athletic complex. They simply, there's a planning and development district that could accommodate something like that, but that's correct. There is no authorized use, just adoption of the plan development.
And generally speaking, what we're talking about is flexibility with sort of dimensional requirements that are in the zoning and the planning district. And there's a two-step process, as you correctly know. The idea is the plan commission evaluates and talks about it first, because we have members here that have experience, specialized experience in development-related matters. So the plan commission talks about it and then makes a recommendation to the full board, and then the full board will take it up and they may accept on that recommendation or they may not, but the idea is that there's another body that's looked at it and studied it and evaluated it and then made a recommendation to the full board. So it's a sort of a two-step process where there's a number of eyeballs that look at the same issues, and a recommendation comes and the final decision is made at the board.
I just want to kind of look at a little bit back at the planning condition code, which changes the structure, right? Seems to be going from hearing people that are suffering from consideration, the local thing would be great. A phased approach to the process. And I think one of the things that we see in the intent is the development agreement with part of the PUD, and we see a draft of that. So I'm just trying to say that if we pass PUD here, that, the development agreement is included before we begin on the top of that, right?
I would have to check, but I believe that was a staff recommended condition, and that's something that is ordained that they have to do. So again, these are staff recommended conditions. There wasn't some, I'd have to check. I don't know that there was a requirement for that, but I would have to look. It's possible.
I think my feeling on this is, a slow, steady approach. I think we're going to be comments here about so if the probably would like to move on something like this, I think maybe sure we have some kind of development agreement so that we're protecting everything and we're protecting and not just, let it free to go if they do. So I would like to make sure that we a recommendation to the board that they include the developer agreement so that the village has the ability to restrict or constrict the speed of their system because of that. The deviations for the instructions in it. Anything that everybody can see, parking lot for big boxes for they're gonna have. The planning and development, some of the structural requirements, I want to say the major issue is one of the due diligence or the dark side of the road and stuff like that, but we're going to see the approach. We should include that recommendation of the board application that goes on the agreement. And it's fully reviewed before we, let these changes be applied.
What does the developer's contract with constant breaches?
Just want to make sure you're hearing. Question that I had for the trustees on the commission here, because we are, us three here, we're on the planning commission. One of the things that we've been talking a little bit about, and I think it kind of ties a little bit with this, has been all the talk about the water and the sewer. There's been a lot of talk about how the developer is going to work to absorb the cost of the water and sewer, so that's not going to affect the village. I think the one gentleman here in front made that comment. As far as I know, the planning commission, I haven't been there in any of those communications for the trustees as or the board, as anyone, like what do those conversations look like as far as between the trustees and the developer, what that agreement would look like? Does that agreement end up being in writing? I feel like right now it's like a gentleman's agreement, a handshake thing, but I think there's a demand there. There is cost there. There's a lot of concern from the residents. There's been concern about what potentially what the cost will be in the future. But like I said, I don't know that I've seen the communication, so I'm assuming they're working directly with the trustees. Kelly, do you know anything about that? Or?
So related to the cost of the sewer and water, so we have a price tag of $20 million that's been assessed based on the two services we provide, right? So as you mentioned, it's been talked about that the developer will shoulder that burden via the development of the overall project. They don't require either one of those services until, I believe it's like phase 6 through 8. So there isn't a need for those services right now for these initial phases. And let's be honest, like, the village doesn't have deep enough pockets to fund it on its own. So without a developer funding it, the sewer and water doesn't happen. That's just a reality, right? So they're working with the parties that they're brokering with related to the land use to figure out the structure around that payment schedule. But it's not coming from the village. So no, the short answer is there's no written contract to say, here's the $20 million and this is how we're gonna handle it, because A, they don't need it for the first 4 or 5 phases, and B, we don't really have a say in it, right? Because it's not our money, they're the ones that are gonna pay for it. Does that make sense? So hopefully that clears the air a little bit on that.
Our money when you have help to it.
Correct. If you made a choice to hook up to it, there would be a charge.
You're never given a choice. You're told that you have to. Exactly.
And I don't think you're listening to the people here, because 97% of these people are against your thoughts and what you want to do to our village. I've been here with my family for 97 years on the same property, and now I have this come through and wreck it? Where are all your brains? You're all in cahoots together here. Why don't you just start thinking about us, the people that are actually putting you in office, and you are the people that don't even put up with the paperwork to be able to oppose you when it comes to the office. Yous were friends of my dad, and now you turn your back on him. Yeah, you can laugh now.
I did.
Yeah, you did. What did you do?
What did I do?
Ho, 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 ho. Yeah.
What are the benefits of having this complex?
Chairman, point of order.
Yes.
I want to know what the benefits are. There's nothing in writing.
Maybe all you need to be recalled to get you out of here, because you aren't listening to the people that are supposed to put you there.
We are doing public comments right now.
It doesn't matter, we're still involved with this all through the whole process. Just because a few of you are gonna say, hey, I want this, doesn't mean everybody does. You were put in for the people to represent us, and you are not doing that.
We're trying to run a meeting here, sir.
Well, you better start including the people of Big Bend and the people that are gonna be involved with this. Listen to your neighbors that don't want it. Why do you want this? What does it involve for you?
Please stop.
Well, I'm sick of listening to your bullshit up here about why you should be there, and the people have spoken.
All right, sir.
Walk out the door.
Ben, as part of all right, Ed. So as part of the agreement and stuff, some of the language in here I'm not too keen on. The complex is proposed seasonally, approximately April, October. We use that word approximately a lot throughout this, and I'm not too keen on some of the stuff that we're talking about approximately. I mean, I think we need to be more specific on some of these things that we're talking about. For example, lighting will generally operate from dusk until approximately 11 o'clock. I see that idea throughout the document, and I think that needs to be addressed.
Where do you see approximately? Yeah, I think you have to see.
Am I going to see it here? Am I going to put it go? It's going to have to be addressed anyway. It's conditional use.
We're talking on that one. Where that's what your verbiage is about.
Okay.
Again, we're looking at the PUD right now, right?
I agree with what you're saying, Jamie, but. So I think just for this one, in terms of the conditions that were placed in your report to consider, if there's an inclination to move forward with this, one would be the requirement for a general development plan. Really, we're just basically requiring something. This is what was presented. We expect to see something consistent with what was presented over time. We address structure heights, so we allow the maximum possible heights. Again, these aren't authorizing structures. And to Greg's question, this PUD does not authorize an 80-foot tall light structure. It makes it possible through the conditional use process to request. But the committee can place further restrictions on the subsequent conditional uses. Again, the PUD is establishing the maximum parameters of operational activity. The conditional uses can be more restrictive than the overlying PUD. And again, as mentioned, one of the conditions is approval of the PUD, a general development plan establishes a conceptual development framework only, and does not authorize construction of any specific phase of development. So I think that's what we're talking about tonight. We've noted that each phase will require site plan and conditional use permit applications. They're bringing forward phase one now. We would expect to see conditional use permit applications for all subsequent phases. One condition notes that if a minor deviation comes in, a slight building change, something of that nature, that can be reviewed through the conditional use process. So if they come in with a conditional use, where it's determined there's a slight deviation of a field location or a building placement, we can consider that through conditional use. However, one condition 6 is that if there's a major deviation, that is to say, if their plan completely changes in our minds, they're going to come back here and require amendments to this plan unit development. That they don't get to go to conditional use, they have to come back and amend this if there's a substantial change. We mentioned developers agreement. I think that might be a good document to consider in terms of this is a phased approach. We'd probably like to understand the ultimate timeline for this project, so it doesn't go on forever, and that there can be clear expectations of what gets done when. And we always let the attorney review everything, so that's going to be it. Each of the other mic here. I don't know if this one's going to
Another item that I would like to make a point is on the recommendation for PUD is that this does not guarantee any development rights. So if they start creating on the property and it doesn't go right, that they don't have the vested development rights so that they can. I want to bring this into litigation so that if this gets started and somebody doesn't go away, I want to big red example to allow something that they can seal back or control as far as culture to the process. I think all the agreement with that, I want to make sure that there's a vested interest. Number 9. I just want to give it all right.
I think some of the things that are going on, whether you believe it or not, we understand there's a lot of passion and a lot of emotion with everyone, but there's also a lot of misinformation. And for instance, Curtis, that story has no intention of even going near you. Why we're going to be alive, I can guarantee you that. I mean, it's going down 164 to a treatment plant. If it happens.
Where is this treatment plant going to be? Because it was canned last time when Jamie tried to get it put behind the park. Where's it going to be?
That's still not out of the question yet.
That's something we need to address first. Where do you go?
There's a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed, and that's what we want to do. Is we want to get to the bottom of all this stuff. But we're not ready. I don't think the village is ready just to throw Breckenridge out yet. Until we get these answers. I mean, it's a big development. Well, the advantages is going to be, it's going to double the Big Ben's tax base. I mean, right off the start. Pardon me?
Pay more taxes?
That's not what it's all about. I'm just saying, I think that, I know everybody's emotions is really running high, but I think the village's stand is also not to just throw this thing out right now until we can get some more answers and we don't want to let it just go.
Is there going to be a referendum? Is there going to be a referendum? I need
Why are you putting the cart before the horse?
Having no referendum. Not right now. I mean, as far as the referendum, everybody's a big fan of elected trustees and village president. I said, as far as the referendum goes, you have 7 elected officials on the village board that you trusted and made decisions in your behalf.
But they didn't listen to us. They didn't listen to us. What don't you understand? We wouldn't be in this predicament and have all these police around us if you were going for us. If you were actually sticking up to the village of Big Bend. But you're not. You're all looking at some glorious numbers. Keep Big Bend the way it is.
The other problem that we say with the referendum is just Big Bend, the referendum that'll limit.
Well, then what we need to do is recall every one of you to get you out of here and put people that listen in. We wouldn't be here and upset if you would do what we want.
What about we the people? Listen to us once.
You're running this like a dictatorship where we don't have a say-so. What? No answer for that?
We haven't made any decisions.
You are already pre-decided on this. We wouldn't be going through this if you listened to the people.
I'm gonna ask you why I'm the last time.
Why? Because I'm asking the right questions and you don't want to answer?
You put words in my mouth.
I didn't put any words in your mouth. None. We got this all on tape here. You find out where I put a word in your mouth.
Let's move forward.
Anybody else have any questions for the attorney, the planner, for the engineer?
I mean, again, so Dan and I were just talking, again, I know we're gonna probably clarify it, but there are times. I apologize. Oh, yeah.
So, Dan and I were just discussing it again, if we have to clarify, again, we just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So what we're talking about right now is the possible approval of EUV, which would grant them the ability to start planning out for the space with our recommendations that are listed here. 115, does that sound correct?
We're making a recommendation,
So
It's a recommendation.
It's a recommendation. And so, again, just correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't give them approval to actually start construction. It gives them approval to, they have to meet all of the requirements, which includes things like the DNR study, correct? And like the water runoff. Is there anything, I mean, you probably can explain it better than I can.
And I don't want to confuse some of those things.
Right.
Some of those things are going to be the conditional use in terms of stormwater.
Right.
But condition 3 being recommended states approval of the PUD overlay district and general development plan establishes a conceptual development framework only, does not authorize construction of any specific phase of development. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, they don't need it.
Why don't you send that out again? I'm going to make a motion to accept the PUD overlay request, overlay district request as requested with the conditions set forth by the planner.
Just to clarify, we're talking about the 110 acres? Correct. Zone B4 currently,
Correct.
not
Not the
the
40
40
acres,
acre
the
zone,
110
the
acres.
residential zoning designated.
And it's to recommend to the village board to adopt a PUD.
Correct.
A modified PUD on the 110.
What are you saying is correct? Because the conversation between the lawyers
So the motion was made by Mrs. Peterson to approve the planning development subject to the conditions in the staff report and subject to the further modification that the PUD is only for the 110 acres west of the power lines and does not include the 40 acres east of the power lines, plus or minus. And it's just a recommendation, folks, sorry, this is not a decision of the plan commission, it's a recommendation from the village board for approval.
We have a motion on the floor.
A second.
Can we have a second? Any further discussion?
My clarification, I just want to make it is, moving forward, this is a recommendation, and, comment I was making is, we've seen development zone, we've seen opportunities, I think this is kind of just one moment where we can just see what's on the table, this doesn't say that we're approving anything from this down the road, but this kind of giving the developer the opportunity to show what he wants to bring as far as this plan, not that they approve everything just
What's on the vision board?
I thought he did that already. Are we misunderstanding? Didn't he do this already?
All the things we've seen are just preliminary conceptual ideas.
And how is this different? Because anybody else's vision of business is not doing the conceptual, they're doing realistic. So you approve this, what's it mean? Does this mean going forward?
They have to come back with a plan.
Didn't they give you a plan? They gave you
That's a concept. That's an idea. The plan has all the details in it, the traffic studies, the water management.
Okay, so let's further clarify. We go back, so we asked, you said that you were gonna do 14 different studies, right? And we don't have all those results.
Correct.
Okay, so how can we make this approval of this without the study? I think that's where everybody's not understanding. We don't understand how we can make an educated decision without all of the information. You can't do a budget without understanding what all of your expenses are and what your income is. This is the same decision, right?
It's similar, I think what we're looking at though is the developer is not gonna commit to spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies if we don't give him the intent that. We're out of order here. We have a motion and a second on the floor, and this is not up for.
I think it's the thought process, right? It seems backwards in our mind.
You have 3 board members on your planning commission, and the other 3 are standing in the back. 4's a majority. This is ridiculous. They're making the recommendation for. Oh yeah, that's that.
It's been posted. Form's been posted.
I mean,
The form's been posted.
this is ridiculous. Have you done any studies on the impact, 45 residents that are around it? Because I promise you, we will grow it away. So we can.
I'm gonna call it over right now. We have a motion in a second. All in favor?
Give a second.
Aye. Trustee Renner? Aye. Opposed?
I just have to say this, I built a house 26 years ago. When I built the house, I shot the land, I talked to the builder, he had everything there, the room sizes, the kind of wood it was gonna be using, everything. He didn't say, well, we'll build your living room first, and then maybe we'll put your kitchen in next, and if we feel like in a bathroom, I knew what I was buying and what I was doing with it. Come on. Can you recap by the Romans, please? You can do that.
Pardon me?
Can you recap the vote? That's what you hear with the poll. How many were for and against with your answer?
We're at 5, 4, and 2 against. All right, we're going to get the agenda along. Item 4, new business discussion / action items. Review, discussion, and possible recommendation on a conditional use permit, CUP, and site plan / plan of operations request to allow development of stage / phase 1 of the Breck Athletic Complex on property located at the southeast corner of State Highway 164 and Town Line Road. Tax number BDV 2022-999-002, owner Eric Whiteyard, 80 Claire Roth.
So this request was the reason for tonight's public hearing. This is the conditional use and associated site plan of operation request for stage 1, phase 1. You had it on board here. I'm just gonna hold it up for a minute here, so everyone can see, so we're gonna stand here. So again, 4 turf soccer fields, parking area, access roads to Town Line and 164. They would be lit fields. There are no permanent structures being proposed in this phase. They are proposing to use 2 storage containers to store sports supplies and things of that nature. They did note, and I know a trustee brought this up about typical hours. I may have made mistakes. I think they did clean that up and harden those numbers. Regardless, the recommended conditions are 11 and not typically 11. So just so that folks are aware. As Attorney Bear said, there are several conditional use standards that need to be demonstrated with substantial evidence by the applicant. Those are in your report. Those are also listed. We can read them out loud. They're in your report. However you guys want to proceed. There has been information provided to address certain concerns. You have a photometric plan that does show light leakage at 150-foot still line. The village's ordinance requirements establish a light limitation at the property line. Their plans for phase 1, and I want to emphasize for this request, show that they maintain acceptable light leakage at the property line. They're maintaining it at an acceptable level at 150 feet away from the lighting source, and that's well within the property line around most of the soccer field. So they have demonstrated compliance with the village's performance standards with respect to noise. They brought forward their parking analysis. Our code does not enumerate parking requirements for sports complexes, so we have to do a little bit of extrapolation and use some common sense. So the developer has provided some analogous uses. They seem to be within the realm of reasonable. but parking could be a concern. And so there are conditions to consider that staff have provided that say no off-street parking. I mean, that was the concern, is off-street parking that we heard. And so there are conditions in there to consider that do address prohibitions on off-street parking. If parking becomes an issue, other things can be mitigated. They can reduce the number of games. They don't have to have 4 concurrent games at once. So there are several things that if parking does become a concern, could be addressed through conditions. As we noted, there was additional information provided from the other phases, from police reaching out to other similar uses to reach out to their police force to see what kind of impact and strain are being put on the force. Other than that, I don't have a lot additional to cover. This really is about tonight's request, and this request is the soccer fields. And so concerns about what may happen in phase 8 are really not relevant to this request. There may be concerns about some of these other things, and it sounds like the commission is listening about stuff for later phases. But again, tonight needs to be about the considerations of whether or not the applicant has met the substantial evidence test with his application, or with the conditions of any approval. And that should be just recommended that you guys address that thoroughly in your findings.
How high are the lights?
Happy to answer any questions of the commission.
How high are the lights?
85 feet.
85
Correct. That signed by 20% of landowners within 100 feet. So you need a supermajority. 5 to 2 is 71%. You need 75, correct?
Pass a vote?
For a supermajority, because we signed a petition and we got it notarized, it's in your zoning manual. 5
I thought it was 2/3.
For doing amending the land use, you know, that, which is a PUD.
It's a majority.
They don't even know their own rules up there.
Notarized.
That's one of those administrative things I was
Petition and supermajority.
This should not go through unless there is public consent. Period. Should be the time in front of your building, people.
Have you seen that?
If you would.
So just handed, a package that has some procedures on it related to Zoom. A couple of comments I would make, is I've never seen this before, so I don't know whether these are residents of the community or other communities that know these are not actually the homes. But at any rate, what the body is doing tonight, what the planning commission is doing tonight, is analyzing the submissions from the developer and then really making recommendations to the village board to ultimately make a final decision, right? So the first two items were deferred, so there was no actual action taken on that. The third one was a proposal merely to recommend to the village board that they explore a PUD, a planned unit development overlay district. And all that really is, it's just saying that we have a proposal here that doesn't fit neatly into one particular district or the other. It has some elements that are different because of the planned use here. So if we're going to evaluate that as a possibility in the community, we're just going to recommend to the full board that they look at adopting the PUD to accommodate. That's not a final decision on whether it will be or not, and further, it was limited to everything west of the power line. So it's just the items that are evaluated or that are currently, nothing more than that has happened. So, in my opinion, whatever this is wouldn't have any impact on that or that decision. And neither would it have any impact at this point, as I see it on their recommendation on the conditional use permit application. just so everybody's clear, there's no approval tonight of larger dwelling. There's nothing being considered other than what's in that little tiny sliver on the upper northeast side that encompasses phase one. I'm sorry, I apologize, northwest side. So the conditional use permit is limited to that area, which is the 4 athletic fields. So the recommendation by the planner is that if you consider doing that, there's a number of caveats that you put on that, there's 9 or 10 recommendations. So essentially, one of those is that a planning and development is eventually adopted. So if that doesn't happen, then the planning conditional use is essentially null and void. And there's a number of other conditions that the planner has recommended, essentially to protect the interests of the village. So I don't, whatever this is the first time at the beginning of this. In my opinion, does not impact. So, in my opinion, it doesn't affect the body's vote that it took, and at least at this point, and we should move forward and decide whether they want to consider the conditional use permit application pending, and make a decision. Are you thoughts on
Looking at my perspective of this, recommendation of the board is that we give us the ability to get things together. Part of all of that is developers agreement, and developers and people's recommendation is CUP. So I'm kind of recommending this, we table this. The board has a chance to act. So that's my opinion on this, and I recommend it here in your session.
That's my recommendation. I would make that motion because it doesn't have to be. I'll discuss
You just started with us.
A lawyer. Yeah.
I don't think anybody else here is saying
Just a side note, guys. It's late, we're all tired, we got to go home, get ready, understand that, we all do. Anybody that lives around this thing that's gonna go up, what you're suggesting and saying is okay, you still have to deal with that for over another hour. So 11 o'clock, and that's before things shut down, and then you have the traffic, you have the noise, people in the parking lot party after a little while. Yeah. So if you want to go home to a nice quiet house, you would too. Yeah. Trying to figure out another way to do it, man?
So we're going to this session. It's in my best interest to act on this finishes requirements
I'll second that.
just before, just table this. Yeah. Would it be to defer again? Well, I think it's just wanted to the assumption is that the board is a date certain if we're tabling one for the next meeting. So the board will review it the next meeting, so then the next planning commission will then. So we should table it to the next meeting, that's, we're not hearing, this will table it to the next, would that be acceptable? That's
Okay, we have a motion second for the discussion.
regardless if the PUD fails, even if we recommend to the board tonight, the PUD still is gonna be the first thing on the table. If the PUD, if the, the recommendation with the PUD still goes to the board, that's the first thing that the village board is gonna have to address. So regardless whether they table it or they don't, that second item in regards to this, to the CUP, if the PUD fails, then right then and there, the waiting condition is null and void. So regardless, if we do recommend to the board to take it up on the April meeting or whatever, at that time, the board can address both items at that time.
Does that make sense? Like if they're talking about the PUD and it gets shut down. So the clarification is, we've already made the approval to the PUD, so that's gonna go to the board to get reviewed and voted on ultimately. This can go along with it to say contingent on the PUD, right? Because if the PUD doesn't happen, this is null and void, this can't happen. So by tabling it, you're really not gaining anything, I think is the point, right? Because it is one contingent on the other, they kind of come along.
I understand that, but I think there's also time here where there's situation that I feel like we should run forward. So instead of sending this package together, I think we board an opportunity to UP and we can get other information regarding some of the stuff with the traffic and whatever. On paper, it's not, but computer, it's not, it's recommendations that